Mr. Davis, I'm going to tell you, I read these papers very carefully. And, you know, I believe that everyone is supposed to be responsible for incidents that they create. And it's an interesting case because Miss Hamblin says that the two of you were dating for a while, and on this particular evening you had had some words as you left her apartment. She subsequently got into her car, and she was in the driver's seat and driving. She says, however, that because of your actions, an accident was created in which both neighbors' property was damaged and her property was damaged. That's an unusual circumstance because usually the person who was at the wheel of a car is responsible. But I read this very carefully, and I want you, in your own words, to tell me what happened on June the 7th.
Okay, so on June the 7th, I was to pick her up from her place. She had told me that she was pregnant, and then she told me that she was going to terminate the pregnancy. I was there to pick her up, to take her back to my place, to take care of her through that process. I had been suspicious that she wasn't pregnant because she had never sent me a blood test. When I arrived, she told me that she had already taken the pill, which made me more suspicious.
Taken
the abortion pill.
Is that they call the morning after
pill? The morning, whatever it might be called.
Okay, so she was going to go back to your house.
Yeah.
So that you could care for her.
Right.
Okay.
So she told me that she'd already taken the pill, which aroused my suspicion further. And I said, can you show me any proof that you were ever pregnant? Can you show me a receipt? Can you show me the blood test? Can you show me the pill that it came in from Planned Parenthood? She refused. She said it was in the trash, and then she said the trash was in the dump. So I left her place confused as to what happened.
So you said, I'm leaving.
I'm leaving.
Or she told you to leave.
I left.
Okay, go ahead.
Then I sat in my car. I was parked around the corner. I sat in my car, and I called a couple friends to walk through what had just happened, because I didn't understand it all the way through. I just didn't understand why she would lie about something like that. So just kind of emoting to my friends about what had gone on. I see her across the street get in her car, which surprised me. I just wasn't expecting to see her. And meanwhile, she's calling me from her car, telling me that she's never took the pill. And
she called you and you answered the phone, or you just took a message?
She called me, answered the phone, and she told me that she did not take the pill. And she swore me, told me she did not take the pill. She had been lying about it.
Oh, shh. You'll have a turn in a minute. Go ahead.
That she did not take the pill, and then she had lied about taking the pill. And then I thought, oh, great, then there's a pill. There's some evidence that what she had been saying wasn't fabricated. So I walked across over to her car and said, can I see the pill? She said it was none of my business, and she refused to show me the pill. That's when her phone...
She's sitting in the car.
She's sitting in the car.
And you're talking through the window?
I'm talking through the window. The car is stopped.
So the window is down?
The window's rolled down. The car is stopped.
And you've been in the plaintiff's car before?
No, I've never been in her car.
Does your car have automatic windows, or does it have...
Automatic.
Okay, so now the window is down on her car.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Her phone beeps, and I reach in to take her phone to see.
That's where we're going to stop.
Yeah.
Her phone beeped. Where was her phone?
Her phone was in her lap.
So she had a phone in her lap, so you reached your hand into her car to get her phone.
Right, yes.
And
I wanted to see if there was some... And then she grabbed my wrists. I immediately let go of the phone. I put my hands up in the universal gesture of, I don't want to get in a fight. And I want to be clear, I didn't open the door. I didn't try to commandeer the steering wheel. And I watched as her car started to roll. The car had been stopped. Now the car's starting to roll. And I'm looking at her like, put your foot back on the brake. That's what I'm thinking. Then her car starts to drift towards the center of the street. And I'm kind of doing the gesture of like, she has plenty of time, just move the car back. Then she accelerates the car and plows through the yard of her neighbor across the street. I was not near the car.
Mr. Davis, the question that I'm going to listen to what the plaintiff tells me. In negligence, one of the questions that courts ask themselves is, but for the actions of Mr. Davis, would Miss Hamblin have had an accident that night with her car?
Right.
And so far, even based on the rather benign story that you tell me, I'm what we all do.
Right.
Fact finders, whether it's a jury or a judge, fact finders put themselves in a situation of the other person.
Right.
Now, I'm in my car. I started my car.
Right.
And you know the car was started because otherwise the window wouldn't be down.
Right.
So the car was started and her foot is on the brake. As you said, later, her foot was on the brake. Then you reach into the car so that you're really trespassing on her property by putting your hand into her car to lift out her phone. That causes, and it's already been an emotional evening, probably for both of you. Okay, Miss Hamlin, you tell me your version of the events.
He did come to my house. We had a disagreement
About what?
about he was pressuring me into getting a certain medical procedure that he referenced earlier. I wasn't quite sure to make a definitive decision on that matter. He left. About 15 minutes transpired. I left my home, went into my car. My car is parked on the side street.
Where are you going?
Where was I going? To the store. I have a cat. I have cats. Get cat
Told me she
food.
was going to see a friend.
Anyways, get into my car. I roll down my window halfway to let the hot air out. I do have my phone in my lap. I am text messaging. I never called him, by the way. I did not know he was still in my neighborhood.
Of course not.
Yeah,
I
15
know.
minutes had transpired. I didn't even know he was still there. So I'm firing off some text messages, just fiddling with my phone because you can't do that while you're driving in California. Next thing you know, I look up and I see him bum rushing my car. My car is now in drive. It is in gear, and I'm starting to go out to veer out of my parking spot. And he's reaching into my car, trying to commandeer my phone violently, trying to pull it out of my hands.
Just a minute, was it in your hand or your lap?
It was in my lap first, and then he reached into my lap, and then we were struggling over it.
Okay, so the phone was in your lap when he
Yes.
walked over.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we were struggling over it. And meanwhile, my car is, I'm trying to ascend forward, get out of the situation, try to circumvent, try not to actually run him over, and try to get away from the situation. And everything really happened so fast. My foot is on the gas pedal. I am in gear. I am trying to get away. And, grabs my wrist, phone, I veer away, and I hit the wrought iron fence of my neighbor.
Okay, so your insurance covered that.
They did, the fence, yes.
And what about your car?
I had only liability, and so the damages, I have the estimate,
I'd like to see the estimate.
$1,531.46.
I'd like to see the estimates. Perfect. And photos of the car if you have them. Thank you. Did you need a new tire?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Davis, did you stick around after the accident?
Yes.
Were the police called?
Yes.
Is there a report?
Yes.
Can I see the report, please? Okay, the only thing that the police report said, and this is a paraphrase of what happened, says the victim was driving, witness, they refer to you as a witness, grabbed phone from her hand, causing her to swerve and hit the gate. Okay, so Mr. Davis, as I started to say, as I said a little bit earlier, but for your actions that day in waiting outside her apartment, whatever you were doing, if you were speaking to friends, but coming over to her car, even though it was not planned, and then trying to grab her property, even for the purposes of looking at it to see who she was talking to, see who was calling her, whatever it is. The whole evening was very disturbing for both of you, caused this accident.
Yeah.
That's what caused the accident. But for the fact that you went over to her car, reached into her car, which is A, illegal, and B, an aggressive action, reached into her car, that accident, the way it happened, would not have happened, but for your action.
Can I
So
just
you are.
rebut that for a second?
Well, are we going to talk about it? Are we going to talk about the law of it?
The context, but for if she hadn't been lying about being pregnant.
Oh,
if she
you
hadn't been
know,
lying.
and if Adam hadn't taken that bite out of the apple, there's a certain cutoff point. If you kept your pants zipped, sir, then you wouldn't have been in this kind of trouble. We're not going back that far.
Right.
We don't have to go back that far. Okay, we go back to the point where, but for your actions in going over to her car and aggressively trying to get her phone, this accident wouldn't have happened. And it's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
Much of what she wants, she's not going to, unfortunately, be able to get, but she is going to get the repairs for her car. she is going to get the repairs for her car, which were $1,530. That's totally reasonable because you actually caused that accident, even though you weren't involved by driving. What? You're not going to get the increase in your insurance rates and the ding to your license. It's not happening.
Okay.
$1,530. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.